Michael Chandler is finally back in the spotlight, though not quite in the way fans might have expected. The former Bellator lightweight champion, who's been on a tough skid inside the UFC, now has his next official opponent, and it's not Conor McGregor just yet. Instead, Iron Mike is set to face fellow UFC veteran Chad Mendes in a wrestling showdown under the Real American Freestyle (RAF) banner later this fall. The announcement came Monday, confirming that Chandler and Mendes will square off at RAF 03, taking place on November 29th at the Wintrust Arena in Chicago. The event, which will stream live on Fox Nation, marks the third installment of the new unscripted pro wrestling league, one that aims to merge the authenticity of real wrestling competition with high-end production and storytelling. According to the official press release, the league's mission is to give athletes from across combat sports a chance to reconnect with their wrestling roots while performing on a professional stage. UFC legends Chad Mendes and Michael Chandler have joined the roster and will face off against one another on the RAF 03 fight card. The statement read, "The two champion mixed martial artists are the latest UFC stars to sign with the league, demonstrating the power of real American freestyle and the optionality presented to professional fighters whose first love is wrestling." RAF has already attracted partnerships with USA Wrestling, NIL, and the NCAA, positioning itself as a legitimate hybrid of competition and entertainment for wrestlers at all stages of their careers. For Chandler, this appearance isn't a departure from fighting, but rather a creative detour, a way to stay active and maintain visibility while he continues preparing for the long-awaited matchup with Conor McGregor. That fight, which has been teased and delayed for nearly 2 years, is reportedly being targeted for the historic UFC White House card in June 2026, an event President Donald Trump has been heavily promoting as a celebration of combat sports. Speaking with Bloody Elbow, Chandler confirmed that the fight with McGregor is still the ultimate goal. "We have some history. He's the opponent that he wants, he's the opponent that I want, and it would be one heck of an event if it happened." Chandler hasn't fought since his third straight loss, a TKO defeat to Paddy Pimblett at UFC 314 in April, a result that left many questioning where the 38-year-old lightweight goes from here. But if his confidence is any indication, the former Bellator standout isn't done yet. "I've got plenty left in the tank," he said. "There's some big fights coming up next year that I'd love to participate in." As for Mendes, his move into Real American Freestyle marks another surprising turn for the former UFC featherweight contender who retired from MMA in 2019 before briefly returning to compete in bare-knuckle boxing. His bout with Chandler will see two of the sport's most respected wrestlers return to their competitive roots in a completely new format, one that blurs the line between sports and entertainment but remains grounded in real athleticism. For now, Chandler's fans will have to wait a bit longer for the McGregor fight to materialize, but between RAF 03 in November and a possible UFC White House showdown next summer, Iron Mike appears to have found the perfect way to stay in motion, blending his passion for wrestling, performance, and fighting into one chaotic, crowd-pleasing stretch to close out 2025. Jim Miller didn't hold back after watching the chaos that unfolded at UFC 321 in Abu Dhabi. The veteran lightweight, who's been inside the octagon more than anyone in history, saw Ciryl Gane's eye poke on Tom Aspinall and immediately lit up social media, furious that yet another fight had ended in a no contest because of something that, in his eyes, shouldn't be happening at this level of the sport. Miller made it clear that he's fed up with what he sees as a culture of leniency toward fighters who commit fouls, saying this isn't about accidents or gloves, it's about responsibility. In his Instagram rant, Miller sounded every bit like a man who's been there and seen it all. "Eye gouging, eye poking is a foul," he said bluntly. "If that foul is done with intention, then the fighter that commits the foul gets disqualified if the fight can't continue. But somehow it's never intentional. It's always an accident. Always." He went on to vent that he's had his own vision permanently affected by eye pokes over his long career, something he's learned to live with, but it still eats at him to see others getting away with what he considers carelessness. "The only way this stops," he continued, "is if fighters start getting punished for it. It's not the gloves, it's the culture and the fighters." What struck a nerve for Miller wasn't just the foul itself, but the way fans and even some figures in the sport turned on Aspinall afterward for saying he couldn't continue. He was furious that the blame seemed to fall on the guy who got fouled, not the one who caused it. The person who was poked in the eye is always the P, always the bad guy, he said. It's never the one who did it, they're never punished. The guy who can't see, he's the coward now because his opponent couldn't close his fist? For Miller, the whole mentality is backward, and it's a big part of why fighters keep getting away with things that should lead to disqualifications or at least point deductions. He compared it to how referees handle low blows, noting how quickly points come off for groin shots, yet eye pokes, which can cause lifelong damage, are almost never treated as seriously. He's got quality cups on the market. You get kicked there, you recover, you're fine. But with eyes, that's your vision, that's your career. Miller's outrage carried even more weight coming from someone who's been fighting for nearly 2 decades without ever being known for dirty tactics. As he reminded fans, he's logged over 7 hours of octagon time, the most in UFC history, and he's managed to avoid fouling opponents with eye pokes, even in countless exchanges over 46 fights. If I can do it, everyone can. Look at the list of guys who've spent the most time in the octagon. Me, Frankie Edgar, Clay Guida, Rafael Dos Anjos. None of us are out here poking people in the eye. It's not an accident. You can control it. For him, the fix is simple. Hold fighters accountable. Make it clear that even one reckless poke can cost you a point, a fight, or a paycheck. Until then, he believes things won't change. All you have to do is penalize the person that's doing it. That's how you stop it. You start taking wins and money away, and suddenly everyone learns to keep their hands closed. At 41, Miller has seen every era of the UFC, from the Wild West days of no gloves and wild fouls to the modern, highly regulated sport it's become. But in his eyes, the system still fails when it comes to protecting fighters from one of the simplest, most preventable injuries in the game. His rant wasn't just anger, it was frustration built up over years of watching fighters lose opportunities, momentum, and sometimes their sight because of what he views as sheer negligence. And when a veteran with Miller's record and respect in the locker room starts calling out the system this directly, it's hard not to feel like the sport should finally listen. The chaos of UFC 321's main event has left the heavyweight division in limbo, and although fans are clamoring for an immediate rematch between Tom Aspinall and Ciryl Gane, that might not happen as soon as everyone hopes. What was expected to be a defining championship clash ended in confusion and frustration when Gane accidentally poked Aspinall in the eye just 4 minutes into the fight, forcing the referee to wave it off and declare a no contest. For Aspinall, who had been sidelined for over a year waiting for a chance to defend his belt, the abrupt ending was a nightmare scenario. His return to action after 15 months was supposed to be a statement performance against one of the most technically gifted heavyweights in the sport, but instead, it ended with medical personnel entering the cage and fans showering the arena with boos. In the post-fight press conference, UFC CEO Dana White expressed his own disappointment, but reassured everyone that the promotion's plan is to run it back as soon as possible. When asked whether the rematch could headline the UFC's first pay-per-view event under its new Paramount partnership in January, White didn't rule it out. "It's possible," he said, hinting that the organization would love to get the two heavyweights rebooked quickly. However, there's one major obstacle: Tom Aspinall's medical status. While early reports from Abu Dhabi confirmed that he didn't sustain any immediate or permanent damage, Aspinall will still need to undergo a detailed ophthalmological examination back home in the UK. Depending on the results, he could face a medical suspension that prevents him from training or competing for several months, potentially derailing the UFC's timeline for the rematch. The promotion has been through similar situations before, and precedent suggests things could go either way. Fighters like Jeremy Stephens and Henry Cejudo both faced long suspensions after eye injuries. Stephens famously received a 180-day suspension after being poked by Yair Rodriguez in 2019, but was later cleared early and fought again within weeks. In contrast, Cejudo was handed an indefinite suspension following an eye injury earlier this year and wasn't allowed to compete again until he received full medical clearance. If Aspinall's case follows the longer recovery route, the UFC might have to put their heavyweight plans on hold until early 2026. In that case, the promotion would likely shuffle the top of the division, possibly booking an interim bout or giving contenders like Sergey Pavlovich or Curtis Blades another opportunity to stay active. Still, optimism remains that Aspinall's injury won't require an extended layoff. The 31-year-old seemed upbeat in brief post-fight comments, telling reporters he felt fine and was eager to run it back with Gane as soon as he gets the green light. For now, though, all eyes are on the results of his follow-up exams in Manchester and whether they'll allow the UFC to salvage one of the most anticipated heavyweight rivalries of the modern era before the end of the year.
Jon Jones couldn't resist making his presence felt after the chaos of UFC 321. The main event between Tom Aspinall and Ciryl Gane ended in controversy and confusion, with a double eye poke bringing the heavyweight title fight to an abrupt and anticlimactic halt. Almost immediately, debate erupted across the MMA community. Was Gane reckless, or was Aspinall looking for a way out? The arguments came fast, but Jon Jones, never one to stay quiet when heavyweight headlines start flying, decided to speak without saying a word. In classic Jones fashion, he changed his profile pictures across social media to images of rubber ducks wearing eye patches. It was a sly, mocking callback to an incident earlier this year when Aspinall, seated cage-side at UFC London, held up a rubber duck to the camera, a jab at Jones for allegedly ducking him during stalled negotiations for an undisputed title fight. Now, after the no contest, Jones flipped the narrative right back at him, turning the duck meme into a symbol of revenge. The message was clear without him ever typing a word. Remember when you called me scared? Look at you now. But Jones didn't stop there. A few hours after UFC 321 wrapped up, he turned his attention toward Alex Pereira, posting on X to tease a potential super fight on the historic UFC White House card in June. "Alex, I'd be down to bring the highest skill level to the White House. I appreciate the respect you showed. Let's dance." It was a move that sent fans spiraling into speculation mode. Pereira, who had just watched the Aspinall-Gane debacle from home, had posted his own reaction on Instagram, shaking his head with a knowing grin as he turned away from his TV. He captioned the clip with a simple challenge directed toward Jones: "Let's make the heavyweight division great again." It was the kind of mutual call-out that gets the MMA world buzzing. Jones versus Pereira, the reigning two-division destroyer versus the most decorated light heavyweight striker of the era, has long been considered a dream matchup. Both fighters share a certain aura, that sense of menace and inevitability that separates true elites from the rest. For Jones, who has been teasing his return since his brief, injury-interrupted heavyweight reign, a fight against Pereira would be nothing short of seismic. For Pereira, it would be the chance to achieve something unprecedented, capturing gold in a third UFC division and doing it against arguably the greatest fighter in the sport's history. The only problem, Dana White doesn't seem interested in making it happen, at least not anytime soon. The UFC CEO has been publicly dismissive of both pieces of Jones's recent activity. He doesn't want Jon competing on the White House card, and he's expressed little enthusiasm for letting Pereira move up to heavyweight. His stance is pragmatic. Jones has fought just once in nearly 5 years, while Pereira is still solidifying his light heavyweight legacy. But that hasn't stopped fans from imagining the spectacle. For Jones, though, the message he's sending is bigger than matchmaking. It's about control. Even from the sidelines, he can hijack the conversation, redirect the spotlight, and remind everyone that he's still the most influential name in the sport. The rubber duck with the eye patch wasn't just a troll. It was a warning that he's still watching, still plotting, and still capable of making headlines without throwing a single punch.
The UFC lightweight division is in one of its most unpredictable phases in years. Ever since Islam Makhachev vacated his lightweight belt to chase welterweight gold, a power vacuum has left fans and fighters scrambling to figure out who truly deserves the next big opportunity. Ilia Topuria's rise to the throne came fast and brutal, knocking out Charles Oliveira at UFC 317 in what many consider one of the cleanest finishes in recent championship memory. But the question now is who gets to challenge him first? Paddy Pimblett's name has surfaced louder than ever, especially after he went public, claiming that both Topuria and other ranked contenders were avoiding him. The Liverpudlian told Marca that he's struggling to get a fight and accused several fighters, including Justin Gaethje, of dodging him. That comment caught Topuria's attention, who surprisingly agreed that if the choice were his, he'd rather fight Paddy because there's history, Topuria said, hinting that this fight might be more personal than professional. But Islam Makhachev isn't buying into the hype. The former champion told ESPN's Brett Okamoto that fighters like Arman Tsarukyan and Justin Gaethje are far more deserving of a title shot than Pimblett. Arman was the backup for Charles and Topuria. He cut weight, showed up, and deserves the title fight, Makhachev said, also noting that Gaethje remains one of the few lightweights with championship-level credentials. The Dagestani didn't mince words about Pimblett, dismissing his resume outright. Maybe Arman, maybe Gaethje, but not Paddy for sure. Paddy beat who? Tony Ferguson? Chandler? Everybody beat Chandler. Makhachev's blunt comments reflect what many hardcore fans already believe, that Pimblett hasn't proven himself against top-5 opposition. Despite his star power and polarizing persona, his most notable wins came against fighters past their prime, and critics argue he's benefited from UFC's marketing push more than merit-based matchmaking. Meanwhile, Tsarukyan, who served as backup for UFC 317, is now set to headline UFC Qatar against Dan Hooker, adding another layer of uncertainty to the title race. Dana White hasn't cleared much of that fog either. Asked about the possibility of booking Topuria versus Pimblett, the UFC boss kept things vague, but didn't close the door entirely. He told TNT Sports, "As of right now, no, we haven't made that fight. We're trying to figure out what's next for Topuria. It's obviously a fun fight, people would like to see it, but I don't know." White also mentioned that the UFC is working on several high-profile matchups for next year's Paramount Plus card, including a rumored Khamzat Chimaev versus Nasruddin Imavov bout, but stressed that nothing is official. So for now, the division remains in a state of organized chaos. Topuria is the new face of lightweight dominance, Pimblett is stirring up noise trying to force his way into title contention, and veterans like Gaethje and Tsarukyan are still waiting for the recognition they've earned inside the cage. Whether the UFC decides to prioritize entertainment value or competitive integrity will determine what direction this division takes next: a grudge match with fireworks or a merit-based battle between the best 155ers on the planet.
Mackenzie Dern is officially the new UFC Women's Strawweight Champion, and she is already looking ahead to her next challenge. The Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu ace captured the vacant 115-pound title in the co-main event of UFC 321 in Abu Dhabi, earning a hard-fought unanimous decision win over Virna Jandiroba. The victory marked her second triumph over Jandiroba following their 2020 bout that went the distance. This time, however, the stakes were much higher, and Dern's composure, striking, and cardio all showed the evolution of a fighter who's finally put everything together at the elite level. After the fight, Dern appeared both emotional and confident as she celebrated with her corner before addressing the media. During the post-fight press conference, the new champion made it clear she's ready to defend her title as soon as possible, and she already has one name in mind if former champion Zhang Weili doesn't return to the division. "I don't know how much say I have now being a champion. I don't know how much my word and my decisions get into play, but I'm here to defend it. So whoever gets sent to me, I'll be ready for. I don't know if Zhang Weili will come back, but I definitely like to fight Tatiana Suarez. Maybe she gets one more fight in. I want to have a couple more fights with some grapplers." The call-out immediately caught fans' attention, and for good reason. Tatiana Suarez has long been considered one of the most dangerous wrestlers in women's MMA. After battling injuries and time away from the sport, she returned in September to dominate Amanda Lemos in a unanimous decision win, re-establishing herself as one of the top contenders in the division. Before that, her only professional loss came against Zhang Weili in a title fight. But many still see her as championship material with her relentless pressure and top control. Meanwhile, Zhang Li has her sights set on a new challenge. The former two-time strawweight queen will move up in weight to face Valentina Shevchenko for the UFC Women's Flyweight Championship at UFC 322 on November 22nd in New York City. If Zhang wins, she could remain at 125 pounds to chase new opportunities. But if she loses, a return to strawweight and a showdown with Dern could become one of the biggest fights in the division's history. For now, Dern is focused on cementing her reign and proving that she's not just a jiu-jitsu specialist, but a complete mixed martial artist. Over the past few years, she's rounded out her game under coach Jason Pereira, sharpening her striking and developing a calm, measured approach inside the cage. Against Jandiroba, she showcased precise movement, effective use of the jab, and improved takedown setups, a testament to her evolution as a true champion. Whether her next defense comes against Tatiana Suarez, Zhang Li, or another rising contender, one thing is clear: Mackenzie Dern has arrived at the top of the mountain, and she's not planning to step down anytime soon. Fans can expect the new champion to stay active, hungry, and ready to prove that her time as the face of the strawweight division has only just begun.